Here we are again with another Borderlands adventure. Something we've delved into 5, maybe 6 times if you play VR. The original looter shooter, developed by a company so controversial you might need to douse yourself in holy water after reading about it all. After all, who can forget the unforgettable? Borderlands 3 starts off with you answering a call from Lilith to help the Crimson Raiders. Lilith needs help obtaining the map of a vault that was stolen by the Children of the Vault, a new cult formed by the Calypso twins. As a newly found member of the Crimson Raiders, it is your job to obtain the map and get the vault key fragments before the twins do. Now if this sounds familiar, it's because you played Borderlands 2. But what's awesome about this campaign is that it involves all the companies of the guns you've been firing since day one. Maliwan, Atlas, you know the companies. But all in all, very similar story to the prequels, but with a deeper lore into the world of Borderlands. And coming from a fan who's played every installment of Borderlands, the deep lore does add that extra kick to make going through the main campaign less of a drag. Every open world game needs objectives other than the main campaign, meaning side quests. This game hits the nail on the head when it comes to doing side quests. It should be noted also that a side quest taught me a new feature, which was ground smashing. Now I can't be too sure if that's a good or bad thing that a side quest taught me this, but that's besides the point. The missions aren't just a go here and come back idea, they have consistency to them. They add a deep lore to the campaign. Now for example, one of my favorites was, I had to rescue this family member of someone who sold her out, but this connected to a main character that was part of the main campaign. That's pretty impressive in my book, and that's also how they do side quests differently. Now you could also argue the point that tons of other games do have a better complex side quest than come here and come back idea, but I'll also argue the point that not all of them always connect to the story like this does. And I also gave you one example out of many that I've encountered so far. What would Borderlands be without action-packed, looting, shooting fun? Well, it would be Anthem with a better story. Now Borderlands 3 takes the same formula from its predecessors and builds on it, from wackier guns to more aggressive abilities and more chaos on screen than I've ever seen. So first let's talk about the shooting. The shooting in this game definitely feels tighter and more enjoyable than previous titles, and this feels more like a Destiny than it does to previous Borderlands. That is until you play with some friends. While the gameplay is addicting, playing with friends tends to cause some frame drops that are highly noticeable, as well as shooting enemies and then no damage is dealt. These problems only occurred when I played with 3 or more people. Now when I played with 4 people, that does ensure that this will happen more often than you're comfortable with. I personally feel there's way more shooting than looting in this Borderlands. Granted, shooting is fun, but when enemies drop weapons that are 3 to 5 levels above you, so you can't even use them, it doesn't make that fun shooting and looting experience. And I also noticed a couple hours in that loot boxes with guns were way more barren than Borderlands 1 and 2. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that the looting system in this game really needs some adjustment. Now the great features that come with the combat options are the 2 new ones everyone's talking about. You choose easier or normal difficulties, and that should be self-explanatory. One, you don't die as much, and the other one, well, you're practically glued to the ground. The 2 looting options are cooperation and coopetition. Cooperation is where all loot is unique and it can't be taken by another player, as well as being able to play with anyone of any level. Coopetition, though, is where the Borderlands experience occurs. Loot is first come, first serve, so when you kill a boss and your friend gets quiet, you know what's about to happen. And the level balance is non-existent, so you better protect your friends who are 20 levels below you. Now for my favorite part of the game. Borderlands 3 has some awesome designs from characters to levels. You start in Pandora and work your way through the galaxy, each planet looking very different than the last. You'll go from high-tech cities to isolated monk territory and then all the way back over to the swamp. Transitioning from Pandora to all this was a good step and it was done correctly, unlike some parasites that tried this once. First and foremost, for character customization, if you go to Earl and Sanctuary, you'll use Iridium to buy outfits, heads, weapon camos, decorations for your room, echo themes, emotes, trinkets, guns. I mean, this guy sells it all in this game, and that makes customization way better in this game. That way you're not depending on loot drops to get different skins. Another big difference from the other Borderlands is how different the enemies are. Of course, there's always going to come a point where you see the same looking enemies over time, but that takes a while. Psychos, for example, come in different looks now. Some have hair, some don't, and the ones with hair have different colors and different styles. Female psychos are also in this one as well. Now, the variety of character design in this game was the first thing I noticed. Next to your character actually talks now. For your character and the whole cast, the voice acting was very supreme in my opinion, because honestly, with all the jokes they throw at them, the self-conceited characters, I imagine that it takes a lot for these actors to keep a straight face.
Hang about. What is that thing on your face?
Oh, this? This is my siege mustache. The troops love it. Anyway, who's your friend?
Great. We'll get through this. Just use the... Yep. Okay. That'll do.
Oh, sorry.
Some of the other bugs I encountered, other than frame rates, was my game crashed and getting caught in the world's geometry. Now, I crashed a lot more often than you should in any game. And when I say crash, I mean that god-awful sound you get when your screen starts to shake and then the buzzing starts. Or your screen would just freeze and you'd have to exit the game. And by getting stuck in the geometry, well, let me show you. Can the voice acting, the funny side missions, and the design help this game? The answer is yes, but without this stuff, it wouldn't be Borderlands, of course, but it also would not be as fun. Granted, the story, there isn't a lot you can do, because at the end of the day, you're always vault hunters, and that means you're going after the vault keys. But at some point, you're gonna feel the drag coming and going, and the bugs will probably make you want to smash whatever console you're gaming on. And I have a good idea why this game isn't as polished as number 2, and that's because, well, Sega didn't fund this one. So when all is accounted for, this game gets a $45 price tag out of $60. Maybe the fixes will come in a patch, but with a company like Gearbox and a publisher like 2K, we should expect a little more than game crashes.
Missions through antennae anyway. It's barbaric. We live in the future, damn it.
Thank you guys for your support. I really appreciate it, and I hope everyone comes back to see what I do next.